What's up, fam? It's your boy, and you already know what time it is over here, family. And we about to get into a video that I think is going to prove to be paramount for you and any other investor that's not just starting on their journey or continuing their financial freedom journey through investing in the stock market. In today's video, what I want to do is break down for you the 5 best stocks I think to own for life as we head into 2022, as 2021 is now closing down. So I want to turn that focus to January 1st so we can already start considering some of the top moves that we want to make heading forward and how we want to accumulate positions in stocks that you want to own for life. So in this video, what I'm going to do is break down price targets on these 5 stocks and why I think they should be actually about presented as buying opportunities for you today. And just remember, it's never nothing wrong with averaging up or averaging down in either way in the cases if you believe in the company long term. So what we're going to talk about first and foremost is stock number 1 is going to be Tesla, stock symbol TSLA. Okay, and what we're going to talk about with this stock today is the current price levels that we're seeing and how this company is going to play out over long term. Tesla is a company that I believe that you want to actually invest in if you believe in the EV movement. Okay, this gives you that exposure to EVs, and this is the #1 company in the EV sector right now, and it has recently eclipsed over that $1 trillion mark. Now, with it eclipsing over that $1 trillion mark, now we've seen where a lot of steam has picked up on this company, and it has been fluctuating between $1,000 and $1,200 on the stock market. Okay, but what we want to do today is check out the technicals here, right? So you'll see what I have here is I have some resistance lines set up here at the very top at 1201 and 1241. Okay, but then you'll see at the bottom down here in the purple line for my support, I have a strong support at 919, and we've been seeing a fluctuation zone of accumulation happening with Tesla right now. So we're in this downtrend, and you could expect to actually see Tesla pull back down to 919. But if we go over to the 1-hour chart just to look at it here, you'll see that it's actually is formed a head and shoulders pattern that it completed, and now it's actually pulling down here, and it's found support here at actually $1,006. Now remember, this is a soft support zone that I actually see right here, right? So this could actually falter back down here to this level of 979 and ultimately maybe back down to 919. For me, seeing it bouncing off this support, what I want to see is how long this accumulation can happen here, because if this accumulation is actually real, you can actually start loading up again here at this level, or you may see a pull back down to 979 and you can start buying down at 979. To me, anywhere between 919 and $1,000 is actually a steal on Tesla at these levels right now, because you got to imagine that as more EVs and supply chain issues actually start to alleviate themselves, Tesla's going to start making a bigger run towards that $1,500 mark, and you don't want to be out of this position or out of this play when it actually goes into another split, potentially heading into next year. So time your entries, time your exits. You don't necessarily, if it starts getting a little frothier in the market, this is where you start trimming at. But currently right now, it's an accumulation period for Tesla, and between 919 and $1,000 is the entry that I would look for if I was to actually be invested in Tesla in 2022. So the very next company that we want to talk about today is going to be Apple. We can actually get it up on the screen with the correct ticker symbol. You'll see Apple here is essentially in a downtrend, similar to what happened with Tesla, but now we got this uptrend that's happening on the 1 hour. But let's look at it on the daily. What I want you to look at here on the daily is that we have a nice resistance area here that we're accumulating at between 161 and 165. Now, as we're accumulating through that area, what we want to see is that Apple actually starts to break out again, but before it breaks out, we want to see it come back down to the end of this channel about 157, and looking for a price exit here or price entry here for actually getting into this play. Okay, if you look at it on the 1 hour, you'll see that same support line is here as well for 157. It's actually trying to break back up towards its original trend. If it breaks through its micro trend at this point in time, you can see a nice run up to where it can go back to retesting all-time highs and possibly break through that level. So if you're looking to actually add Apple to your portfolio, the one thing that I would say about adding Apple to your portfolio at this point in time is that you want to get in sooner than later. Waiting for a dip back here to about 145 to the original trend line that we've been using overall on the macro sense. You may not see that level again, and so for actually waiting for that level, you need to see a lot of things happen with worse news than what's already been given out with Apple, talking about iPhone 13 sales not being as the high in demand as they were with the previous iPhone 12. A lot of people say that's because the difference is not that much major difference between the 12 and the 13. And you know, I'm not the tech guy here, so I can honestly say I own a 13. It does just fine for me, but at the same time, I can understand why demand may not be driving the sales even higher. But you got to look at an overview of, is Apple going to be here over time? And yes, it will. I believe it'll be here for the next 10 to 15 years easily. Okay, so before I get into ticker number 3 and ticker number 4, I just want to make sure that you understand that these two plays that we first started with today, Apple and Tesla, is where I believe that the money is going to be made at in the near and long term. Okay, over the next 5 years to next 10 years, you're going to see these two companies battle back and forth for being one of the number one companies in the world. So pay attention to these two companies, and accumulating growth in these two companies is something that I would imagine that you will want to do extremely and make it very important that you actually do. Okay, so let's talk about number 3. Number 3 that we're going to get into today is going to be NVIDIA. Okay, NVIDIA is a semiconductor play where I believe that this is a play where you want to actually be in this play long term. 15 years from now, you want to have accumulation of NVIDIA shares in your portfolio and run this thing all the way out. As I talked about with number 1 and number 2, Tesla and Apple, NVIDIA is going to be right there as well, because semiconductors is a play for all time. Okay, where everything that you're actually putting in your household, anything that you're putting in your vehicle, anything that you're doing in your office, it requires semiconductor chips, and NVIDIA is one of the major key leaders in that space. And now, as we started to talk about the transition to the omni metaverse type plays, NVIDIA is a leader in that realm as well, and I believe this is a company that you do not want to sleep on heading forward. Okay, growth in this space is going to be tremendously huge, and we're in a current downtrend off the macro trend with NVIDIA right now, and you want to actually take advantage of this play. We're actually in an accumulation area, and we're actually seeing the actual value here, where you see this resistance level at about 307. This is where we can actually see accumulation and sideways trading at with NVIDIA. You've seen this actually accumulated here before, and so this downtrend is not something that I would not sneeze at. I would actually be willing to play in this area and accumulate shares at this level here. So to me, anywhere between 307 and 289 is a good entry play here. You're actually at this in this channel right now, and we see if it gets rejected here at this level again, you can start seeing the trend down more so to 289, and I'll be willing to buy all the way down to 289 and ride it on the way back up, and even average up on the way back up past 310. So my area of point of consensus for actually purchasing NVIDIA is between 289 and 310 at these current levels. You may not get another opportunity before it takes off again up to 346 at all-time highs. Okay, so pay attention to that level. So that goes back here. Yeah, 310. So 310.35. So I hope that you're paying attention to that one. And another company that I would look forward to actually owning in the portfolio long term is Google. Okay, I know Google is quite expensive, and this the next two stocks that we're going to talk about are going to get more extensively expensive here. Okay, so that may be a hint to the next stock that we're going to talk about. But what I want you to pay attention to here when you look at Google is, why would you not want Google in your portfolio? And the reasons I can't come up with one that's a negative, I think about all the positives that Google actually entrenches you into. They own so many companies underneath the brand that this company has so much room to grow. And what you can actually see is that YouTube is actually starting to become a bigger portion of that portfolio, with the number 1 and number 2 leading search engines in the world, one just being regular through text and the other one being through video. You can see so much growth in these two companies together that they merged to make a bigger search engine for one. And this gives you an opportunity to invest in a company in the long term, and search is not going anywhere. So to me, buying in accumulation areas is important when it comes to in Google as well. So you have the very top that we see in at all-time highs here, and you got a support level here down at 2,661. Remember, you can buy fractional shares of any company if you're using Webull or you're using Robinhood. So you don't necessarily have to fret about actually spending that big of a price tag on these positions here. Now, I don't believe that Google would actually ever do a split, but if they did, this would make it more cost effective for a lot of consumers to actually get into the space, especially if you're a retail investor. But right now, we're starting to see this accumulation area starting to happen here, and we may get an actual downtrend to the downside. Okay, as we actually seeing that tech is actually falling off a cliff right now. So if you actually look at Google at this level right here, you'll see that is actually breaking through its micro trend to the downside and actually trying to make a reverse back up. That reverse back up has resistance sitting at 29.44. So right here on this support is where I would actually be accumulating, and it may stair step a little bit down even further if it gets rejected at 29 or 48. Okay, so pay attention here. I will actually be loading up on these at this potential time as well too, because this is a play where you want to look out beyond 10 years on and look back and see that Google was actually pretty cheap at the level that it was here, right? And if you actually want to take a bigger look on the macro trend, let's go over to the weekly. Look at this as we go in, as we went through the pandemic. Look where Google came from during the pandemic level. During that time frame, we was down at $1,062. Imagine if you actually bought it then, it ran all the way to $3,038. So that uptrend is significant. So don't sleep on where actually Google has actually moved to and where it could potentially go going forward. Okay, so that's my point on that, and I'll leave it there. Okay, so the final one that we're going to talk about today, and I want to emphasize this, the very one that we're going to talk about to close this out today is a company where you actually got to see, and I hope that you see that the branding of all these companies that I'm talking about by owning them for life is that companies that you know that's going to find a way of executing continuously, no matter what the market does, no matter what the economy deals with, that these companies will be steadfast and actually going the right direction each and every week. Okay, so another company that we're going to talk about, and the price tag is going to be a little bit higher, but don't get too annoyed by it. Make sure that you just invest in fractional shares if you want to own these companies. Okay, so that company is Amazon. Okay, Amazon is another giant that you want to be a part of because you can see 10-year, 15-year growth in this company over time. Now, they don't have to be the major part of your portfolio, but they should be sticking points to your portfolio that helps weigh up your averages in your portfolio to show you that you are actually getting significant growth. Now, one of the things I want to talk about when it comes to Amazon is AWS is in everything, okay? Really and truly, AWS runs the world in software cloud services, okay? So if you are not thinking about cloud computing in a bigger sense of the world, you need to think about this too. And I even believe that Amazon is going to play a major role in the metaverse space too, as a lot of this stuff is going to be created in the cloud. Now, all these companies are internally connected together at that point in time when you think about this in the bigger spectrum. And let's just talk about price target here for right now on Amazon. Amazon is actually in a downtrend as well right now on the weekly, but let's look at on the daily. You'll see that it's actually breaking trend right now on the micro trend. Looking like it's heading back down to about this level here of a 31.79. Now, I would not mind buying at 31.79, but I would prefer to buy at 28.74. So your first nibble, I would actually suggest, if you was actually taking any suggestions out of this whole context, and it's never financial advice, is to wait for a 31.72 pullback, and then even look for a trend that sends down to about 28.74. And quite possibly, if it falls through that support level here, your next support level is at 21.80. So in the 1 hour, in the real macro trend that you'll see is that we're actually looking at that same level again here of about actually 31.91. And then that's when we get that pullback, though. You can see it all the way down to 28.74. It's trying to break back up on trend, but we'll see how that plays out. And it may get rejected here at 34.97. So pay attention to that. Fam, what I want to talk to you about here is that you got to think about investing in the long term. Whether you're a beginner, you're an advanced trader, you're doing options, whatever you're doing, you got to think about this in the sense of growing your portfolio for years to come, to hedge against inflation, and to actually be somewhere where you can actually enjoy life and not have to work so hard all the way through and enjoy life to its fullest. So I hope that you found value in this content. I hope that you hit the like button on this video. Definitely subscribe to the channel too if you like the psychology that I provide each and every week. And definitely don't be afraid to use that link down below to join my Discord, where I come over and give my psychology each and every day, talk about technical analysis, and even share my crypto short and long range trades each and every day I make those, okay? So I hope to see you in the next video. Y'all stay safe. Peace.